Okay, I'm doing the last prepping before I put the outer cab corner on. Like I said before, one of the things I have is I have hindsight that Ford didn't have to know why things rust a little bit. One thing, there's a gap. I've widened this because a little bit rust, but I'm going to fill this in. There was about a 1/4 inch gap right there from the factory, which would have just let water just come straight in through here and fill what this, it's basically a cavity because it rolls over. We'll just let that fill with water. It also let water come out of it and evaporate, but it also let water in. So I'm going to eliminate that and cover that up. Hopefully it helps. I mean, sometimes you do things like this and it makes it worse. I mean, sometimes these holes are there on purpose for things like evaporation, letting water out. So I could be making it worse, but like I say, I'm going to fill this with grease and oil just like I did the others. So hopefully I'll prevent that anyway. And like I say, this truck, I don't care if it lasts another 10 or 15 years, that's pretty good. So I'm sure it'll last that long regardless. I'm also going here to extend this piece down from the factory. You can see those are the spot welds that were in the old piece, and they barely caught the top of the metal. So they held obviously because they were still there, but I'm just going to extend this piece of metal down, then I'll grind it all smooth with the bottom of the new piece. So I'll get this prepped. Once I get the piece fitted for the outside, I'll paint the bare metal and I grease everything on the inside and put the outside, and I'll do that on both sides, and we'll be done with the cab corners. Okay, I got everything prepped yesterday in order to weld in the new cab corners. I painted everything here. I put rust prevention stuff on all the old metal. Now I'm going to grease everything just like I did the other time. I can access most of this for the cab. It's kind of open into the cab here, so I can put more oil and stuff down through it later. But I'm going to go ahead and reach in here in these corners and get as much oil and grease back there as I can to prevent future rust. So I'm going to do that. On the last video when I showed grinding welds, when you're working with these panels that come from overseas, I think these came from Japan, maybe Taiwan. These, you really don't want to grind on these. You just want to grind your weld once you have a weld. You want to stay off of this with your flapper wheel because these are 20 gauge, where the old truck here is 18 gauge. So this is thicker than the panels. So you really don't, these are so thin, I mean, it could easily grind into these kind of holes, so you definitely only want to grind the welds. That's where it's more important overall. So anyway, we'll get those on, and I'll go over that when we get those going. So first thing I'm going to do is heat the garage up a little bit. It's cold. This winter, we've had a bad winter this year. We've been in the 20s and 30s for most of the winter. So it's really cold. I was out here yesterday, I got the air warm, but then the floor is cold because it's been so cold I can't heat the floor up. And ironically, I do have PEX lines in the floor. When I built this garage, I set it all up with PEX lines, and you can kind of see over here, they come up right there. There's a bunch of PEX lines right there. Those come up. I just need to buy the hot water tank and everything it is to hook it up, and then I can have radiant floor heat. I just haven't done that because it's probably about $2,000 to hook that up. So I'll do that eventually. Right now, I'll just use this. This works pretty good. This last year, this only cost me $40 to heat the garage all winter. And so far I'm $40 into it this year too, but I'm gonna have to buy more. So it's gonna end up costing me $80 this year to heat the garage. So I just need to go ahead and bite the bullet and get the floor working the way it's supposed to. Then I'll really have a nice garage, hopefully. But I keep putting my money into projects like this instead of things I really need. So that's just the life I live. Okay, I think the other thing important on these aftermarket parts, because it's so thin, normally I could take a flapper wheel and grind the paint off, but because these are so thin on these, I don't even do that. I just use an abrasive pad. That way I'm just taking the paint off and I'm not taking any metal off these. I'll do this for all the holes, and I'll do the back side of these too because I don't want any contamination from the paint, because I want a nice clean weld on this, because I want to weld as little as possible. And I will take my time on this because this will definitely warp a lot easier than the 18 gauge. So I will have to take my time and spot it all the way around. So I'm going to clean it really good before I do that. Like I said, that just takes the paint off. There's no sparks, there's no metal, so I'm just removing the paint. So I'll go around the whole thing like that. I've already done the other one, and then we're ready to install. Okay, you can see I went around all the holes, took off all the paint on the edges on both sides. That way, hopefully the weld doesn't get contaminated with the off-gassing. So anyway, ready to grease this one up, and I'm going to put on the driver's side first, and we'll get them installed. We'll say one other thing. This one is made in Taiwan, and like I said, these are aftermarket parts. Most of the aftermarket panels, even for Volkswagens and anything you work on, basically, the ones that come from Taiwan are going to be thinner. I know in a Volkswagen, if you can get panels from Germany or Brazil, some of those will be 18 gauge, and they're definitely worth the extra money, especially on the floor pans. On the Baja that I worked on, I spent extra money on those floor pans, and they were way better than the ones I've used in the past. So if you have the option of getting 18 gauge, it's much easier to work with, but unfortunately this is what we're stuck with for a lot of things. I don't know that they make these in an 18 gauge. I don't think they do, so it is what it is. So that's what I'm working with. Okay, I successfully got this side on without warping anything. I took my time and I used the air hose on it. It's nice and soft. It's amazing how solid that makes that corner. One thing you can see right here, what I had to do is this seam right here and these seams, to make those line up, this radius was off a little bit and it was pushing the edge out too far. So in order for this edge to match and this edge to match, I had to cut a relief cut in it so that could bend in a little bit to make the radius right. That's typical with these aftermarket panels. It kind of sucks, but it is totally typical of what you have to do sometimes. But it welded up nice. I'll do all the finishing welding later. I'm going to get on the other side and start the other side. Got away from me a little bit right here, but this is behind the bed, so it really doesn't matter. I mean, it's fine. It's just not perfect. My bed comes all the way out to the middle of here, so from here out is all you'll see. I don't have any warpage, but this does, right here, there is a little valley in here where it shrunk a little bit, so it does go in. But from the back side, I'll be able to push out a little bit and get it a little bit better. But for the truck, it's fine. So I'll smooth it out, hammer dolly it a little bit, and then might just put a little skim of Bondo right there just to blend it in a little bit. But they might not even need it when I get done. Again, since it's just a truck and not a show truck. So anyway, we'll move to the other side and see what we can get done. Okay, I came home at lunchtime. I'm getting some shipments for my truck. I bought a bunch of parts from LMC. I don't want to bash on the company, but I don't know. This is the box. I just tried to open it. I did just open it. But this is a radiator support. There's absolutely no padding or anything. It's just in a box, which hopefully it's okay. But outside I have the front windshield. I haven't brought that in, so hopefully it's not broken, but it's just... It seems like there would be a little bit of padding on something like this, but anyway, let's see what else we have. The FedEx guy also called me when he was delivering these, and I ordered a bunch of stuff, and I know these are only 3 of the boxes that came. This is like 1/3 of the shipment. But he told me, he said, some of the boxes are kind of big, which this one you can see is over 6 feet tall. He said they're not very heavy. But the first one was kind of heavy. I haven't moved this one yet, but I can tell because it says glass. This will be my front windshield, and I'm not sure what's in this. I haven't tried to pick it up. It is light, so let's try to wrestle this beast into the garage without breaking it. Alright, I'd like to meet this FedEx guy who said these weren't heavy. I'm going to get a dolly to move this. It's not super heavy. It is kind of heavy, but I could carry it, but it's so awkward. It's too hard to get a hold of. Just wrap my arms around it and still try to walk with it, so I'm going to get a dolly to move that. Okay, it is a gas tank. I'm pleasantly surprised that it's already painted. I thought it was going to be just still. Looks like the hardware is there. Looks like everything's there, hopefully. Should be the straps. Should be a sending unit and everything there too. So that's to relocate the gas tank to the back. So, okay, well, big surprise. I don't know for sure, but it's not just the windshield, because here's weather stripping for all the doors. So maybe it's weather stripping and the glass. I don't know. We'll see. Start pulling it out and see what's under all this. The other package had no insulation. This one looks like there's sleeping bags in it. Oh, let's see. Maybe the windshield's not in this. Maybe it's other stuff besides the windshield. I don't know. Yeah, starting to think the windshield's not in this now. Yeah, I don't know what glass I ordered besides a windshield, so, well, no, there is actually, there's actually a windshield buried in all of this. Holy shit, guys, really? Okay, so that's how they pack stuff. That is actually the windshield there, packed around all this other stuff. Okay, so maybe I also have an inner fender well, which I don't know. I'm not going to say the inner fender well won't be in here because it may be. That looks like a box, but that's actually my glove box. All right, I'm just going to keep digging through here and see what I can find. Okay, today I'm going to go through and finish welding all the tiny little things on the front so I can finish up everything on the front. Like underneath here, that needs welded right there, things like that. On this back side, I still have these spot welds on this brace, so I'll do that on both sides. There's like a little gap between the old and new there. So I'm just going to spend the day going through. I want to seal this area up right there with weld. So I'm going to kind of do that today, get everything done that I can do like that, all the little things. And then the next step, to work on the cab mounts on the rear. The back cab mounts are done, or the cab corners, I'm sorry, are done. But the cab mounts, I'm going to drop the truck all the way down, then I'm going to lift the cab off the frame. Okay, so I worked all day yesterday and got all the little spots filled. I got all the little hole there filled. Underneath, there's some welding there I did. Underneath these, I got all these nice and tight on both sides. Okay, I got everything ground down here and got this smooth too, so that's done, and then I did the same thing on the front, got all these. And the only thing I'm going to do next, there's a couple of little holes here, there's one there, and potentially another one somewhere. And I'm going to fill those, but then after I do that, I am going to drop the truck down on the ground, work the steering column out of it. I think I have to remove the entire thing. That's what that big hole is for in the floorboard. The column rod is attached to the box, so it's one piece. So then once I do that, I'll be able to lift the entire cab up by itself from the frame and work on the rear mounts. Okay, so before I do all that, removing the cab and all that, it's going to take all day probably to get the cab up. This is kind of boring. I know it's boring, so I question whether even to film these videos, but I'll keep filming them because, again, I'm just documenting what I'm doing, basically. But I want to do something fun this morning to start off with. It won't be long before when the cab's up, when I drop it back down on it, I'm going to go ahead and bolt it down. So I have to paint the underside of this, so I'm not too far out from painting something, so I had to make a decision on the paint. So here's what I decided on the paint. Let's go look at what I'm going to do. Like I say, with the painting, I'm going to paint this in stages. I don't have room to set this cab off somewhere in the garage because my garage is obviously full. So I'm going to paint, when I have the cab up, I'll paint the bottom of the cab and I'll paint the frame rails under the cab. But where I have to do repairs here, I'm not going to paint any of that. I'll just blend it all in because, again, it's a truck. It's not a restoration. So I won't be doing all the painting at one time. I'll be doing it in stages. So right here on the bed, I experimented with some paints that I bought. I like blue. I always like blues. That's my favorite. So I looked at this cell blue, and I don't mind it. It's a little too bright, but also I'm going to have a NASA logo on it. It's going to be blue, so I didn't want blue. It's a dark blue, but I didn't want blue on blue. So then I do like this smoke gray. I did a section of that. The problem I have with that, there's two problems I have with the smoke gray. I do like it, but I like it when your trim and your bumpers and stuff are black. And your grill. My grill was originally white. I'm going to leave it white. So I don't really like the smoke gray and the white. And the smoke gray looks a little bit like primer. So I wanted to get away from that. Also tried silver, because I was thinking NASA is silver, like the rockets would have been silver. I don't really like silver either, and silver and white I don't like. So I came up with a solution. Okay, I want to save money. This project's going to be on a budget, so I do want to save money. So I want to use Rust-Oleum, but the problem is I don't like all the colors of Rust-Oleum. They have probably, I'm guessing, maybe 25 colors, maybe less. And I don't really like any of those colors out of the can. But I started thinking if you mix the colors and you mix them quart to quart or quart to pint, you'd have a repeatable ratio. You could be able to redo it. It'd be repeatable. So what I've came up with for the truck, what I'm going to do, and I don't know what it's going to look like, we're going to find out together. I'm taking 3 quarts of aluminum, oil-based, and I'm going to put in 1 quart of gloss cell blue. Say that right. So that's what I'm going to mix together. That'll make a full gallon. Adding this in slowly, and I'll start to mix this. Pour that good. Still mostly silver, but I can see it changing slowly. And that's what I want. I want like a light blue silver. Just kind of a grayish blue. Now what I might do, kind of like I'll spray it. Let's see. Okay, I made a little color swatch against white on white paper so I can see the contrast between the white and the blue. I can live with that. That's good enough for me. It's like I say, it's a blue silver, which is what I wanted. Probably a little lighter. I might have wanted a little bit darker, but it is what it is. I can live with that. So we'll see how this dries. This may dry darker or lighter, but I'll let it set and dry and see what we end up with. But okay, while the paint's drying, I put a couple of samples on the body on the other side, and I got that card. I'll let all that dry, then we'll look at the paint later. I think I can live with it, but I'm going to open up this can of worms. Hopefully it's not going to be too bad, but I'm sure it's going to be worse than I thought. There's a hole there. There's going to be one there, and I think there's going to be one there and one there. Hopefully this doesn't snowball. There's a brace right there, and that's why that rusted, because water got trapped behind it. I'm going to dig it out with the grinder. These are good in holes like this because they go in and they immediately eat out the bad rust, but when they get to new metal, they stop grinding. You just kind of let it go, and it can tell you where you need to go. So hopefully I don't have anything bigger than quarter size holes here, but we'll see. I don't want to pull this whole panel off and all that, so I'm just going to do little patches for this truck. So okay, I'm also going to do some maintenance, try a new product today. The tip of the big gun always gets the slag in it. So what this stuff's supposed to do, I really can't even see the brand name because it's in Japanese, Chinese maybe, I don't know, but came from Amazon. It's sort of like a wax, a paste. You're supposed to just stick the tip down into it, and it's supposed to keep the slag from getting off of it. I have this little tool also that I bought. It goes in the end of the tip, it squeezes down, and then once you get it inside, you go out and you just rotate this back and forth, and it cleans out the tip. So I did that first. I also put a little bit on the tip. Can't get the focus, but I put just a little bit on the tip of my gun there too. Well, it's focused, but there's a little bit on there. Not too much, because I'm sure it's going to burn off, but anyway, I'll give it a try. I've never used this stuff before, so I'll give it a try and see if it helps. It may or may not. And this might be snake oil, who knows, but it was on sale, so I wanted to try it. I think it was $6, so it's worth a try. If it helps, that's good, because I constantly get these full of slag, and that affects your weld because it keeps the gas from coming out as smoothly. So we'll see. Okay, I'm gonna wrap this video up. It's getting long enough. I have the body ready to come up off the frame. I've disconnected everything. I've got all the wires and brake lines, and I got the steering column out. So it's free, it's ready to go up. But before I do that, this lift doesn't come, the arms don't go narrow enough to lift this up by the edge of the cab to where I can get to work on it. So I'm gonna have to build a structure, like a wooden structure, sort of like a table on inside that goes up to here at the top. And then the arms, if I put I can get the arms in here, but if I take the arms all the way up to the top to lift, it won't go high enough. So I need to put a spacer there. So I'll build like a little structure there that'll lift the cab up. Before I do that though, I want to finish one last thing in here. These little holes here that hold down, they're little nuts inside those, and they're kind of rusted and stuff. So what I want to do, I want to weld these in smooth. I want to put riv nuts in there for the cover that goes down there. So I'll put stainless riv nuts just to update that. And I've got my new gas pedal. It also goes there. It went into the other cover, so I have to look at the cover, but it was all rusted away right there. So I think I'm okay here. I don't need to weld anything else. I'll just have to drill the holes for that. But anyway, I'm going to start doing that. I'm going to try to get all this welded up today, finish this up on the inside, and on the next video we'll have some wooden structure here, and we'll have the cab up in the air, doing hopefully the last of the rust repair work on the cab. The doors and the hood, things like that, they have small areas that need done, but I kind of do those on the bench. Those are no big deal, but I'm kind of getting tired of working on this, so hopefully I'll get it all done and I can move on. Like I say, the bed itself is rust free, so I don't have to do any repairs on that. I do have to move the fenders forward 6 inches, and I'll have to cut the step there, but that'll be easy and fun. That's not rust repair. This is getting old, but it's coming out good, and I'm happy with it, so it'll be worth it in the end. So anyway, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.